It was raining the day I lost everything. I stood on the curb with a trash bag full of clothes, an old laptop, and a dog-eared photo album I couldn't bring myself to throw away. Behind me, the front door slammed shut, locked by someone I used to call family. "You can't stay here anymore," my cousin Rachel had said. "It's not personal." Not personal? I'd lived there for 3 years, helped with the bills, cleaned, cooked, took care of her kids when she needed a break. I wasn't just a guest. I was a placeholder for the warmth her home lacked. But now, with her boyfriend moving in, I had become inconvenient. I slept in my car that night, and the next night, and the one after that. At first, I told myself it was temporary. I could crash with a friend, get a motel room, figure something out. But one by one, my options dried up. People were busy, dealing with their own stuff, or just didn't answer the phone. By the end of the week, my bank account was down to $17.34. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. My phone was on 4% battery and the charger cable had snapped. That's when it hit me. I was homeless. Not in the romanticized bohemian way. I wasn't on some soul-searching journey. I was cold, hungry, forgotten, a ghost drifting between gas stations and fast food parking lots. The worst part? I kept asking myself how it had come to this. I had a job once, a relationship, a future. That was before Thomas. We met 5 years ago, sparks flying like something out of a movie. He was charming, ambitious, and full of promises. Within a year, we'd moved in together, into a modest little house on the edge of town, a fixer-upper, but it was ours. Or so I thought. 2 years later, Thomas started acting distant, secretive. I found receipts for hotels, late-night texts from numbers saved under fake names, and lies wrapped in smiles. I confronted him. He apologized, cried, begged. I stayed. Then one day, he vanished. No note, no call, just gone. I assumed he left me, ran off with someone else, or maybe with debt collectors at his heels. I lost the house. Or at least, I thought I did. Thomas handled all the paperwork. The mortgage was in his name. He told me that, often, usually during arguments. "You're just staying here," he'd snap. "I pay for everything." And I believed him. Until this night, cold and shaking in my car, I remembered something strange. A few years back, we'd refinanced the mortgage. He said it was to get a better interest rate, but I remembered being there, signing things. I hadn't understood the details, but I definitely signed something. That flicker of memory lit up like a warning flare. I pulled out my laptop, connected to the Wi-Fi at a 24-hour diner, and began digging. My name, the property address, the bank. It took hours. But then, there it was, the mortgage document, listing me as the primary borrower, not Thomas. Me. My hands trembled. Because suddenly, I wasn't homeless. I was the legal owner of a house I hadn't stepped foot in for over 2 years. And that house was still sitting there, empty, waiting. I sat in that diner until the sun came up, rereading the mortgage document over and over. My name wasn't just listed as a co-signer, it was the primary one. Thomas was secondary. I had no idea how that had happened. Maybe it was some trick he pulled to improve his approval odds. Maybe the bank had insisted on joint responsibility during refinancing. I didn't know. I didn't care. All I knew was this. I had legal ownership of a house, my house, and I'd been living in a car. My hands still shaking, I packed up and drove across town. The neighborhood hadn't changed much. Still quiet, still lined with old trees and weathered mailboxes. The house was there, exactly as I remembered it. Beige siding, a blue door, that stupid lawn ornament Thomas insisted on keeping even though it made the neighbors roll their eyes. It looked abandoned. The blinds were drawn. The lawn was overgrown. The mailbox overflowed with flyers and unopened letters. I pulled into the driveway, heart pounding. Part of me expected someone else to be there. Squatters, tenants, maybe even Thomas. But when I walked up to the porch, I noticed the doormat was still the same one we picked out together. Worn down, but familiar. And then I remembered something else. I still had my old keys. I fished them out from the side pocket of my bag, the same keys I hadn't touched since the day Thomas left. I never got around to throwing them away. Something about that felt too final at the time, too painful. Now, it felt like fate. The key slid into the lock and turned. The door creaked open. I stepped inside, expecting dust, maybe mold, the stench of abandonment. But it wasn't like that. The air was stale but not rancid. The furniture was still there. Our couch, the chipped coffee table, even the bookshelf with all my old paperbacks still lined up perfectly. He hadn't sold anything. He'd just left. I walked through each room slowly, like I was visiting a place that belonged to someone else. Except every photo on the wall, every dent in the floor, every cracked tile in the bathroom whispered the same truth. This was mine. I sat down on the couch and exhaled for the first time in what felt like weeks. I wasn't lost anymore. I wasn't a guest. I wasn't a burden. I wasn't a sob story people whispered about. I was home. And yet, a question burned in the back of my mind. Why had Thomas left everything behind? Why hadn't he contested ownership? Why didn't he try to take the house with him? And what else, besides the mortgage, had he left in his wake? The house wasn't empty. It was still, eerily so, but not empty. As I wandered through the rooms, I began noticing little things Thomas had left behind. A watch on the bathroom counter. A crumpled suit jacket tossed over a chair. His cologne still perched on the dresser like he'd just stepped out for groceries and planned to be right back. But it had been over 2 years. That made no sense. I made my way to the basement. That place always gave me chills, even when we lived here together. It was where Thomas kept all the business stuff. Boxes of files, a cluttered desk, things I wasn't allowed to touch. I hesitated at the top of the stairs. Then I descended. The air was colder down there, mustier. A single bulb flickered above, casting long shadows across the room. I flipped the light switch. Nothing. Just darkness and dust. Using my phone's flashlight, I scanned the space. It was all still there. His desk, filing cabinets, a mini fridge with expired soda cans, boxes upon boxes stacked like a forgotten archive of his life. Curiosity turned to suspicion. I opened the first drawer. Bank statements. Receipts. Then the next. More of the same, but buried beneath them was something else. A folder labeled foreclosure notices. I froze. There were 4 letters all addressed to him, all unopened, all warning of missed payments and legal consequences. One was marked, final notice. My heart sank. Had Thomas abandoned the house because he was drowning in debt? It got worse. I found a separate folder, stuffed with documents related to a second mortgage, taken out in my name, forged signature, fake documents. He'd borrowed against the house, against me, and disappeared. I backed away from the desk, breath shallow. He hadn't just walked away, he'd sabotaged me, set me up to crash and burn, then left before the flames reached him. I should have felt broken, but I didn't. I felt focused. I had proof now, of fraud, of theft, of betrayal deeper than I imagined. I took photos of every document, scanned what I could, and sent them all to Lara, my lawyer friend. Her reply came within the hour. We can nail him for this. Big time. I'll start drafting the suit. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't panic. I sat in my kitchen, with a cup of instant coffee and a fire in my chest I hadn't felt in years. Thomas thought he'd left me for dead, but all he did was leave me holding the match. It didn't take long for word to get out. I'd filed the fraud complaint. I'd submitted everything to the mortgage company, and Lara had filed a formal claim for damages. The house was legally mine. The debt? On him. Every forged signature, every dollar stolen, tied directly to Thomas. He didn't respond. Not at first. But on the 3rd morning after I'd returned, I saw a car pull into the driveway. It was him. Same smug face, same expensive coat. Only this time, his confidence looked thin. He stepped out slowly, like he was walking into a battlefield he hadn't prepared for. I opened the door before he could knock. His eyes widened slightly when he saw me standing there, calm, unshaken, holding a steaming mug of coffee like this was just another morning in my house. Didn't expect you to be here, he said. Didn't expect you to be back, I replied. He looked past me into the living room, like he was assessing what he might still claim. I came to grab a few things, he said, feigning casual. Just some clothes, a few papers, maybe check the basement. I didn't move. You're not taking anything, I said. This house is mine, so are the contents. And unless you want to explain yourself to a judge, you should probably turn around. He smirked. You don't know what you're talking about. I held up my phone, screen open to the scanned mortgage and forged second loan documents. His fake signature, his lies. Then I stepped aside just enough for him to see the stack of legal papers sitting on the table behind me. I know everything, I said. He flinched. You committed fraud, Thomas. You forged my name. You left me homeless while using my credit to fund whatever garbage life you've been living. I've filed with the courts, with the bank, with the police. You are done. He opened his mouth to speak, then closed it. And for the first time since I'd known him, Thomas looked powerless. You were supposed to stay gone, I added. But now that you're here, go ahead. Leave your name and address. I'll make sure the sheriff knows where to serve you. He turned without a word. I watched him drive off, faster than he'd arrived. No threats, no apologies, just silence. The kind that comes when a predator realizes the prey turned out to be something much stronger. Back inside, I took a deep breath and shut the door. Thomas was gone, but I wasn't done. This wasn't just about reclaiming my house anymore. It was about justice. And he had no idea what was coming next. Thomas underestimated one thing: me. He thought he could disappear with my credit in flames, my name tied to a house I couldn't afford, and leave me shattered. But instead of collapsing, I rebuilt. Not just my home, but my voice, my will, and my power. With Lara's help, we escalated everything. I filed civil charges for mortgage fraud, identity theft, and financial abuse. The forged loan he took in my name, flagged and reversed. The bank not only cleared the fraudulent debt, they launched their own investigation. Turns out Thomas had done this before. Twice. Different women, same playbook. This time he got caught. The police picked him up 3 weeks later, halfway across the state, hiding out in a rented apartment under a fake name. He was arrested on the spot. Court was a blur of statements, exhibits, and sharp questions. But I showed up every day. Sat front row, dressed with purpose, spoke with truth. He didn't look at me once. The judge ruled in my favor on every count. He was ordered to pay full restitution plus damages for emotional and financial harm. He lost his job, his car, his reputation. And I got the house, debt-free. But I didn't stop there. I took the court's restitution payment and started over. I went back to school part-time, online, flexible on my terms. I rented out a room in the house for extra income. I fixed the garden, repainted every wall, burned every trace of him out of the space. The house became something new, mine. Not a memory of what I'd lost, but a monument to what I had survived. Sometimes people ask if I ever miss him. If I miss the man who used to hold my hand or cook me breakfast or promise me the world, I don't. Because that man never existed. He was a mask, a lie. And I was done grieving someone who never really loved me. Now I wake up to silence. Not the fearful kind, but the peaceful kind. I drink coffee in the kitchen I reclaimed. I pay bills in a name I've protected. I sleep soundly, knowing no one can take this from me again. Because I've learned something most people never do. You can lose everything and still rise. You can hit rock bottom and still climb back and stand taller than you ever did before. I thought I was homeless, but I was just one truth away from being home.